Hello, y'all, and welcome back to the channel. Marquita here, and today I'm going to be doing a book review on a book called Paper Doll Lina, and that is by Robin Lucas. So I came across this book on Audible, and I decided to give it a try. It sounded really good when I read the summary, and indeed I did enjoy it. So Paper Doll Lina introduces us to a woman by the name of Lina Henry, who is a stay at home mom and wife. She is a suburban stay at home mom and wife. She's married to a man named David, who is an investment banker, and he does very well. So she is afforded the ability to be able to stay at home. They live in an Atlanta suburb in a very wealthy area. So they are, they have the good life. They have two children, a boy and a girl who are both in high school. So they're almost, done with the raising of the children for now. And so that's Lena's life. And from the outside looking in, it sounds like she just has a wonderful life. She gets to be able to stay at home with her children if she wants. She has a husband who is able to provide for more than just the necessities. They do live a kind of luxurious life. They have the house, the cars, all of that. The kids are in private school. So it just sounds like a really good life. But unfortunately, it is a situation where everything that glitters is not gold. And for Lena, she's actually in what we would probably consider an abusive and controlling marriage. And Lena herself doesn't actually recognize these things in the beginning. She's been married for years, and she does love her husband. She loves her children, and she does enjoy the life that she's able to lead. However, as we learn more about Lena, what we see is that Lena is not just that stay-at-home wife and mom. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home wife and mom if that's what you choose to do, or if that's your end goal. Like, if you say, okay, I'm gonna work, then once I get married and start having children, then that's what I want to do until the children are out of the house. But that was not Lena's plan or desires. It was David's. And Lena was actually a working woman who had a career. She was doing very well. I want to say it was in like maybe the advertising or marketing, communication, something along those lines. She was doing very well for herself before she got involved with David. Once they got married and began to start working on their family, then David suggested that she stay at home so she could be there for the children and so that they could work on, expanding the family. So Lena also dealt with some fertility issues in between trying to conceive the children and all of that. So compared with that, plus David, he tried to use that as a way to say, maybe that's why you should stay home. No stress on you. So we know that you carrying a child. There's some things there with either getting pregnant or keeping or carrying the child. So if you're at home, you don't have to worry about stress and working. You're not on your feet. Blah blah blah. So he tried to make it seem like it was in her best interest. And what you'll see throughout the book is that David actually uses things like that as a way to control and manipulate. Like he'll try and make it seem as if things that he wants Lynn to do is, for the better, for the big good, for the better good, for the family or for the kids, or it'll make him happy and all this. He tries to kind of guilt trip her into doing things that he wants when really he's just controlling her. David is the type of person who wants to present well to the outside, meaning to his social circle, or to anybody else. That's why everyone thinks they have this wonderful life and that David is this wonderful, fine, upstanding citizen who's, being a great husband, great father, and all of that, when in reality, he's none of the above. He's not even that affectionate with his children. He does not support them in their aspirations outside of, school, especially if it doesn't seem to fit into the image that he's trying to portray. So we see that a lot. And one of the things I love about this book is this is really a story of a woman who finds herself again. Because remember, I said she's college educated. She had a career. She was doing fine before. She never desired to be a kept woman or have the stay at home wife mom life. And so she didn't need that, nor does she want that. And anytime that she tried to go back to work, David created another reason or excuse why that would, it's not a good time for that or whatnot. But what we see is David slowly isolating Lena from anyone outside of the family, and also using the keeping her at home as a method of control, because David controls everything. They have either they have joint bank accounts, or bank accounts that are just his. So he has access to all anything that she would have access to, and then some. And she doesn't even have full access, because if it's just his name, she wouldn't be able to access it. Um, and he controls. He watches over everything in terms of, with their cell phones. He has the locations on for both Lena and the children. And I know a lot of people might say, that's typical. A lot of people do that for safety reasons, but he does it as a means to keep track of Lena. Like when she's out during the day, if she says, "Oh, I'm just going to the gym and coming back home," let's say she, for some reason, needs to go across town and she ends up over there. When he sees that she's not where she said that she was going to be, or that she went elsewhere, then he starts to question her. Where were you? Why did you go there? Who were you with? Why didn't you tell me? All of these kinds of things. So this is the behavior that David exhibits. And so Lena starts to realize, um, and partly because she has made a new friend, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but Lena starts to realize that her relationship is not as it should be. She knew that there were issues, like, that they weren't clicking the way they should be, and she wasn't happy in that sense. But the more that she starts to really sit back and think, she realizes that there's more things wrong other than just like, oh, maybe we just kind of lost our spark and we just need to work on, getting back to dating each other and that type of thing. She does try. Lena is not someone who's just like, I'm not happy anymore, I want a divorce. That was not her train of thought. That's not how she worked. And David doesn't want to let her go. So even though he does things where she very rightfully so should file for divorce, and would, it shouldn't be looked down upon. David is one of those people who wants to control, and when he feels himself losing control, then he gets worse. Like that's like an abuser. When they feel that power leaving them, then they start to exhibit even more controlling behaviors, to the point that it can become very dangerous and deadly. Um, so Lena, in the meantime, while working with her children on a little special project that they were trying to do, she comes across this famous actor, and he would be equivalent to what I would say our Chadwick Boseman, where he is, a big action figure type hero, and she expects him to be, of course, kind of like, not necessarily stuck up, but like someone who is just kind of like, I'm a young guy who's in my, prime, and this famous actor and all of that. She doesn't expect him to be just a regular, everyday, laid back guy. And that's who he is. And so they strike up a friendship. And so they find themselves, talking to each other either via text or on the phone. And they're just having regular conversation, just like you would with any friend. Like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, how's your day? Making jokes, things like that, teasing each other about like cooking or just little things. So nothing, crazy, or nothing that would be considered, wrong in terms of her being a married woman. She let him know that she was married, so she wasn't doing anything, sneaky like that. But what that relationship allowed her to see is that, one, she didn't have anybody else in her life that she could just have that like a regular conversation with, or that she could just talk to about things, because David really didn't care how she felt. He didn't come home and say, "Hey, honey, like, how's your day?" Like, she never got that from him. So, and whenever she did try to, maybe spice it up a little, send him a little naughty picture or do some things like that, he always turned it into something negative. He also does little side comments to her, like, he'll look at her, like, say if she puts on some sexy lingerie, he's more concerned about, when did you buy that lingerie? He's checking the credit card receipts, trying to see when you went to the store to buy that lingerie, because he's suspecting that she bought it for somebody else, or that she got caught, or he nothing that Lena does seems to ever be good enough for him, and he finds a way to always turn it around on Lena and make it a negative situation. He tells her, talks about how she looks in it, then he'll say, you have put on a few pounds, just little things like that. And he tries to pass it off as if, it's nothing, he doesn't try to sound mean, but he says it in a sense where it's just like, you tell a woman that she's gained weight, that's never going to be taken as a positive, ever. no matter how you say it. So these are the types of things that he does. And he has made it to where he has broken Lina mentally and emotionally because she has become this kind of meek and mild person, even though she's not. I mean, she's not like just this spitfire, but she's also someone who has motivation, dreams, you know, hustle because she did well in her career, and to for the career that she was in, you kind of had to have a drive. She had all of that, and after years of being with David, he has gradually broken her down and taken those things away, taken, you know, that kind of personality that she had, because that's what he wanted. He wanted a little, just someone that he could just control, and hence the name of the book, Paper Doll Lina. In one event, he gives Lina a birthday card, and he refers to her as his paper doll, and that is the moment in the story where it all comes together for Lina, and she just thinks back. A paper doll is a one-dimensional, object. It doesn't have you. We control a doll. Think about any doll, whether it be a paper doll or a Barbie doll. We control how they look, how they move. We do their hair. We dress them. So they are whatever we want our doll to be or represent. We control that, and that is what Lina realizes, that David doesn't care about her emotions. He doesn't care about what she wants to do, because she's expressed several times thinking about the fact that the children will be gone within the next 3 years or so, 3 to 4 years. She's thinking, what do I want to do once that's over? Because I won't need to be a stay-at-home mom anymore because the kids will be gone. And so she's thinking about getting back into her career and just other things that she could be doing, other than just being a stay-at-home wife and depending fully on David. And he is not having it. He actually suggested they have another baby. And that's when things like that start to click. And it was the very first time we see her kind of starting to stand up and find her way again, where she's like, no, that's not what I want. And so we see her start to learn to speak up for herself again, because she had gotten to the point where she didn't push back on with David because she was afraid of him to some extent, and also because he had beaten her down to the point that she just wouldn't. And so we see Lina becoming the 3D Lina, that full person, because she realizes as his paper doll, she has no feelings, no thoughts, no opinions. She is just his showpiece, and she knows that she's more than that, and that's not what she is. And so we see Lina becoming, the 3D Lina, the full person, the full human. So I really enjoyed this book because you do see a woman who kind of realizes the situation, and she starts to try and figure out ways to make her situation work and improve it and improve her situation. So I love the book for that, and I also love the fact that it brings attention to abusive and controlling relationships, unhealthy relationships, because abuse doesn't look the same in every relationship. A lot of the things that David does, you don't necessarily think at the beginning that it's an abuse or control situation or controlling situation. Tracking your phone, that's not necessarily considered. That's not the first thing you would think of, but the way in which he goes about doing it and what he does once he if you go somewhere else and he's checking it, like those and questioning her, like that's when it's like, okay, that's a red flag. So the fact that he's insisting that she stay home, even though she is saying she wants to work, the fact that he has isolated her from all of her friends that she had prior to them getting married, anybody outside of the family he been isolated from, that should be a red flag. The fact that, anytime she tries to branch out, he figures out a way to pull her back in. And so those are things that let you know that this is a controlling and abusive situation. And so I think that it's great to see, attention brought to that, because again, on the outside of looking in, they look like this perfect family. And the last thing that I think is important to mention is that Lina is black and David is white. And so given that scenario, given that David came from a pretty well-to-do family anyway, and then you have Lina, who did not come from that. She came from a single parent household. They struggled. They had there were times when they were homeless. And so now she has married David with this upper, level, she's married up essentially. And so she's not very welcome from those social circles either, because they're looking at her, one, sometimes it's due to her race, and then other times it's because of her background. And so even though Lina is a very nice person and she wasn't a gold digger, but that is how she's perceived to some people in the social circle, and then other people just look down upon her because she is a woman of color. So we have all of those factors playing in, on top of being in that, relationship where everyone thinks on the outside thinks it's great, but we know as the reader, as we learn more about Lina's situation, we start to see it's not that great. And Lina, of course, is living it, so she knows that it's not that great. So it's a good book. I give it, out of 5 stars, I would give it a 4.5, very solid 4.5, because I think it was well written. The issues that it brings attention to, and I just think there's a couple little parts where it's in a little like, girl, you know better, like when she does some things, or even the kids. But other than that, it is an overall, it's a good book, well worth the read. I really enjoyed it. And I do think it is overall very realistic. It's not just, everybody rides off into the sunset with no issues or consequences. So I think it is a realistic situation that, or realistic situations are present in the book, and the way that things play out would be true to a real situation. So it's not fantasy land at all. It really is kind of like real life stuff. So I did appreciate that. So that is Paper Doll Lina by Robin Lucas. And thank you so much for watching. If you read Paper Doll Lina, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.